At my 24th birthday party. Just as I was about to announce my engagement to Elliot, a row of comments suddenly appeared before me. Wow. The male lead has been reborn. This time, he'll definitely courageously reject the female antagonist. If it weren't for the gratitude towards the female antagonist's family in his past life, the male lead would never have given up on his first love. How tragic. The male and female leads wasted an entire lifetime. But this time, they can finally have a sweet romance. I turned to look at Elliot, only to find that the usually indifferent gaze in his eyes had inexplicably turned red. He glanced at me with disdain and spoke coldly. I will not marry you. With that, he strode down from the stage and pulled Lillian into his arms. After everything I've realized. Lillian, you're the one I really want to marry. Whispers immediately spread through the crowd, and the comments grew even more enthusiastic, calling it so sweet. A chill ran through my heart, but I smiled and turned to look at Julius, who was in a wheelchair. Elliot, who said I was going to marry you? My fiancé is clearly Julius, the sole heir of the Julius family group. Seeing me say this, the comments went wild again. What's going on? Why is the female antagonist suddenly getting married to someone else? Did I miss something? It's just talk. The female antagonist only has eyes for the male lead. She'll never marry anyone else in this lifetime. And this male supporting character is disabled. We don't even know if he's physically capable. How could the spoiled female antagonist possibly be interested in him? Julius had indeed suffered from a leg condition since birth, but I didn't care. After all, the Julius family was also prestigious. In high society, marriages were naturally about interests. Originally, having fulfilled my desire, my father, who was fond of me, had adopted a boy from the orphanage, intending to raise a childhood husband to support me. But I hadn't expected Elliot to be so unwilling. As the comments scrolled past me, I pieced together a fact. It turned out, I was the female antagonist. According to the comments, I was the malicious young lady who, using the gratitude from the adoption, pressured Elliot, the male lead, into becoming a son-in-law to the Serafini family. And now, Elliot had been reborn. In my past life, Elliot and I had indeed gotten married, but after marriage, we became a couple full of resentment. Elliot, having grown up under the Serafini family's charity, had a deep sense of inferiority. He believed that I was the reason he couldn't be with his first love, so he developed an intense dislike for me. He openly and secretly resented my spoiled and willful nature. But he never wanted to divorce me. He was unwilling to lose the comfortable life he'd had since childhood. For 2 years, we bickered, until the news came that Lillian was about to go abroad. Elliot's long-suppressed feelings finally erupted. He rushed to the airport in a hurry, desperate to do anything to keep his beloved. But tragically, he was hit head-on by a large truck on the way and died on the spot. Now, with his rebirth, Elliot no longer wished to suffer in silence. Ignoring the Serafini family's reputation, he publicly declared his love for his first love, hoping to make up for the regrets of the past life. Elliot, since you and my daughter each have someone you love, then you and the Serafini family no longer have any ties. You should hand over the company matters to the secretary. And there's no need for you to work with the Serafini family any longer. My father furrowed his brow and looked at him, his tone full of disappointment. Upon hearing this, Elliot visibly stiffened, his face turning pale as he nodded. Yes. Everyone around us, quick to pick up on the situation, immediately realized that Elliot had been cast aside by the Serafini family. None of them paid him any more attention and instead turned to congratulate me and Julius. The comments went wild once again. What happened? How did the plot change so suddenly? The male lead was so easily kicked out of the Serafini family? What else could happen? The male lead publicly embarrassed the Serafini family at the female antagonist's birthday party. Of course. They're upset. It's better this way. Otherwise, the male lead would still be stuck as the Serafini family's childhood husband. How could he ever have a proper romance with our female lead? Exactly. The male lead should quickly sever ties with the female antagonist before she starts bothering him again. I sneered inwardly. What's there to cling to about a useless, pretentious man? The Serafini family gave Elliot a life of luxury and opportunities to succeed. But in the end, he wanted to take advantage of it. A man like that, I was more than happy to keep at a distance. The next day, as I woke up, I saw more comments flashing up. The male lead has officially announced the female lead as his fee and key. That was fast, as expected of our male lead. He even said he would give the female lead a grand wedding. I'm totally hooked. The male and female leads suffered so much in their past lives with their unrequited love. This time, they can finally be together. Just then, let out a low sigh. A message popped up on my phone. Julius, a Nathaniel family group, is hosting a charity banquet. Would you be willing to attend as my fee and key? I quickly replied with a simple yes. Julius was a classmate of mine from elementary school. Because of his leg condition, I'd taken special care of him. He used to joke that I was his boss. Later, Julius went abroad for treatment, and we didn't keep in touch as much. I really should thank him for yesterday. If it had been anyone else, I wouldn't have dared to announce the engagement so impulsively. Though I'd been angry at Elliot, I truly thought marrying into the Julius family was a good idea. At least I didn't dislike Julius. And he'd openly expressed that he didn't mind a marriage for business interests. There might not be love between us, but our goals were aligned. However, not long after the banquet started, I saw Elliot walking in with Lillian in his arms. The moment he saw me, he furrowed his brows, his eyes full of disdain and impatience. The barrage of comments flooded the screen with mockery. I told you so. The female antagonist is only interested in the male lead. She's just playing hard to get. She purposely shows up in front of the male lead, only to act as someone else's companion. All to make him jealous. I get it. But this trick is so clutch. The male lead doesn't even care. I couldn't help but tug at the corner of my mouth, finding the whole situation rather amusing. Even after leaving the Serafini family, Elliot still carried himself like a rich heir, tipping tens of thousands without a second thought. He gazed at Lillian with affection and said, "Lillian, the Nathaniel family is a key partner to my startup. I'll introduce you to them later. Nathaniel and Mrs. Nathaniel are both very easy to get along with. You'll like them for sure. They have a daughter studying abroad and aren't home often, so you'll have more time to spend with Mrs. Nathaniel. Don't worry about money. When I get back, I'll get you a secondary card, and you can swipe it however you like." Lillian was utterly charmed by his words, her happiness practically bubbling over. After casting a smug glance at me, she deliberately raised her voice. "Don't worry, Elliot. I'll make sure to build a good relationship with the Nathaniel family and be the best support for you." The barrage of comments immediately started up again. How wonderful. The male and female leads had feelings for each other in their past life but couldn't confess due to the female antagonist. And now they're finally together in this life. My eyes are welling up. The female lead came from an ordinary family, and the female antagonist, a rich girl, made her feel so insignificant. I hope they stay happy forever in this life. No wonder. I had wondered why Lillian's gaze on me during the birthday party was filled with such hostility. It turns out, in her eyes, I was nothing more than the villain who stole the man she loved. But in my past life, Elliot never mentioned Lillian. So how could I have known about their relationship? Just then, members of the Nathaniel family came over to toast. Elliot quickly led Lillian to greet them, smiling as he introduced. "Nathaniel. Mrs. Nathaniel. This is my fee and key, Lillian." Upon hearing this, both Nathaniel and Mrs. Nathaniel glanced at me before awkwardly responding. "Elliot, I think there's been some confusion. I don't believe you were invited to tonight's charity gala?" Elliot's face turned white in an instant, and he awkwardly smiled. "I didn't receive an invitation, but the Nathaniel family is an important partner to my company, so I thought I should come and show my support." Nathaniel immediately became serious. "There's no need for such formalities. In fact, I've already told my team our collaboration ends here." Elliot panicked. He tried to say something, but Nathaniel had already linked arms with Mrs. Nathaniel and walked toward me to engage in conversation. I grabbed a glass of champagne for Julius, smiling as I casually chatted with everyone about the wedding. Though no bodyguards came to escort anyone out, it was clear that everyone was treating Elliot and Lillian as if they were invisible. Elliot, furious and pale, was powerless. Lillian, lying, unfamiliar with such scenes, grew visibly uneasy, looking nervous and out of place. The barrage was running wild now. What's going on? Isn't this bullying? But when you think about it, it makes sense. The male lead's entire position is thanks to the Serafini family. Now that he's no longer connected to them, why would anyone else show him any respect? Exactly. Without the Serafini family's resources, his little startup wouldn't even function. Now that he's fallen out with them, no one will want to work with him. It's so real. I'm kind of sad. Elliot, humiliated and on the verge of leading with Lillian, was stopped by a waiter. Sir, the tip you gave earlier was a bounce check. Would you mind using another form of payment? Elliot, irritated, pulled out his black card, coldly replying, then let's swipe it. A moment later, the waiter returned, looking awkward. I'm terribly sorry, sir, but your card has been frozen. It was only then that Elliot started to panic. This is an unlimited black card. How could it be frozen? Is your machine broken? Before he could finish speaking, his phone rang abruptly. Perhaps from the sudden movement, Elliot accidentally put it on speaker. The frantic voice on the other end immediately filled the room. President Elliot. Something's wrong. All of our partners are threatening to cancel contracts. Our company is going to go bankrupt. Elliot's face turned pale. The barrage immediately exploded with concern. I almost forgot. All the projects at the male lead's company were negotiated with the female antagonist's help. Without the Serafini family's heiress, the male lead startup couldn't secure any sponsorships. It's over. The male and female leads were finally about to have their happy ending. But now the female antagonist will likely use the company's crisis to blackmail them into staying apart. The female antagonist really is impossible to shake off. Crap. The female antagonist just looked at the male lead. She's definitely waiting for a chance to get close to him. Elliot, his face cold, was about to leave when Lillian suddenly called out. Elliot, the wedding planning company just messaged us saying that the venue we wanted is now available, but we need to pay a deposit of £100 and immediately. Because so many people are interested, the money needs to be transferred in the next 3 minutes, or we'll lose the spot for this year. Elliot's forehead instantly broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't have any money right now. Forget about 100,000. He probably couldn't even scrape together 10,000. Seeing the others looking on with amusement, I couldn't help but smile. Elliot gritted his teeth and said to Lillian, Lillian, you cover the wedding company's fees first. I'll transfer the money to you once my funds are back in order. Lillian immediately began complaining. Elliot, my salary is only $5,000 a month. After rent and living expenses, there's hardly anything left. Do you know what 100,000 means to me? Don't worry. It's just that I don't have the money right now. Things will definitely get better. The company's about to go bankrupt. What can you do about it? Besides, you promised me a grand wedding. But now you're asking me to pay for it? Lillian's complaints grew more pitiful. And in the end, she started crying. The atmosphere became instantly awkward. Seeing Elliot, who had been raised by the Serafini family, acting like this, Mrs. Nathaniel couldn't help but come over to ask me, Serafini, if the Serafini family no longer has any ties with Elliot, I'll have the bodyguards escort them out. I smiled and nodded at her. Indeed, there's no connection anymore. I apologize for the inconvenience, Aunt Nathaniel. While I was speaking normally with Mrs. Nathaniel, Elliot suddenly shouted at me with disdain. Serafini, I don't need your help to smooth things over. I've told you before I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I really hate the way you act so high and mighty. Whether it's my company or my wedding with Lion, I don't need your charity. Take your dirty money and leave me alone. I was shocked by his shamelessness. Even though, as the comments had mentioned, in my past life I nearly drowned during our honeymoon. And it was Elliot who without regard for his own safety, saved me, leading to my deep love for him afterward. This life was different. We were not married yet, and I hadn't developed any intense romantic feelings for him. To me, having fulfilled my obsession, Elliot was more like a long-time business partner. We both existed to help the Serafini family grow. Thanks to the timely comments, I knew he already had someone he loved in his heart. So I had long given up on the thought of marrying him in this life, and I certainly wouldn't engage in any behavior of clinging to him. It was clear he had always despised me in the past life, but he kept mixing past events with the present. I looked at him coldly. Elliot, I was just chatting with Mrs. Nathaniel. Don't you think you're a little too full of yourself? Why would you think I want to cling to you? By family background and connections. Isn't my being far superior to you in every way? Elliot's face turned red with embarrassment. It finally dawned on him that, in this life, we weren't married. The love I had for him in the past life hadn't even happened yet. Realizing this, his back slightly slumped. The comments grew anxious again. No way. Is the female antagonist really not helping the male lead anymore? But if the female antagonist doesn't help, his company is definitely doomed. In the past life, if it weren't for the small company, the male lead wouldn't even have the confidence to argue with the female antagonist. That company was his safety net and his only hope during his humiliating life as a son-in-law. Looking at the incessantly scrolling comments, I couldn't help but frown. I hadn't expected that raising a son-in-law for the Serafini family would lead to such resentment. In fact, my father's original intention was just to raise someone trustworthy to support me. If Elliot truly didn't want to be a son-in-law, we wouldn't have forced him. Even though Elliot wasn't engaged to me in this life, my father was only angry because Elliot had publicly embarrassed the Serafini family, not because he refused to marry me. In the past life, though Elliot had married me, he always felt oppressed and resentful. He had even been secretly encouraged by some of his friends. Elliot, we men can't let women walk all over us. Listen to me. You've got to find a way to take control of the Serafini family's power. Then Serafini will have to listen to you. Look. Serafini's family is just her. How can one woman possibly manage such a big family? In the future, it'll all depend on you. Elliot had reluctantly nodded in agreement. But unfortunately, how could someone from outside the Serafini family easily take control of its massive assets? While I was willing to let him manage part of the business and supported his own small company, that didn't mean I would give him the core interests. A woman raised in high society like me would never be foolish enough to hand over the family's inheritance to a man. In the past life, Elliot had always played the role of supporting me. He was unwilling, but there was nothing he could do about it. Julius, visibly upset, coldly said, Elliot, Serafini is my fiancée now. If you dare speak to her disrespectfully again, don't blame me for not being polite. Elliot, you're a useless cripple. What qualifications do you have to say these things to me? Elliot's words were like poison, each one striking at Julius's weakness. Even the comments were starting to feel uncomfortable. What's wrong with the male lead? Why is he attacking a disabled person? Yeah. He's totally ruining his image. The male supporting character is rich and powerful, but hasn't done anything to him. Yet, Elliot starts with personal attacks. Have Elliot and Lillian escorted out. And don't let anyone like that in here again. Yes, was I? Nathaniel. Elliot was shown out, and I sympathetically squeezed Julius's hand, hoping he wouldn't take it to heart. Then, taking advantage of the situation, Julius suggested I accompany him back to the family estate for dinner. And of course, I agreed. At Julius's family estate, Mrs. Julius greeted me with immense warmth. She started by complimenting how I had grown more beautiful over the years, then laughingly asked when Julius and I had gotten together. I awkwardly took a sip of water, not knowing how to explain that this whole engagement was purely my own doing. In fact, later that day, I asked Julius, if you have someone in your heart or if you're unwilling, we can just treat this engagement as a joke, and I'll find a way to explain things to everyone. How could I not want this? Marrying you is a blessing, he replied. Upon hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh. It was then that our engagement truly felt real. While I was enjoying dinner at the Julius family estate, the barrage of comments started discussing Elliot's situation. He was currently being tormented by money, struggling with his company, basic survival, and his wedding to Lillian. Every expense was pushing him closer to the edge. On the way home, I eagerly watched the barrage. When will the male lead finally get to enjoy a sweet relationship with the female lead? The male lead situation is really tragic. He's been so suppressed since his rebirth. Does he have to rely on the female antagonist to survive? With the female antagonist's spoiled attitude, who can stand it? He has no choice but to endure. Without the female antagonist, who else can help him? Sure enough, as the car entered the Serafini family estate, I spotted Elliot's disheveled figure. It looked like he had been waiting for a long time. When he saw me, he forced a bitter smile and said, "Serafini, I've lost. I can't escape my fate of being tangled with you. Here's the deal: if the Serafini family continues to fund my company, and if you adjust that spoiled attitude of yours, I'm still willing to marry you, just as your father wished." As he spoke, his face was full of desolation, as if he had made a huge concession. He even wore a look of humiliation, as if he were offering his dignity in exchange for my family's substantial support. How laughable. I had never seen someone beg for a handout with such pride. "Elliot, have you lost your memory? I already have a fiancé." He sneered dismissively. "Serafini, I know you're playing hard to get. How could you marry a cripple? Enough. Just have your finance department transfer the money. My company is in dire need of it." His tone was full of certainty, as if he was sure I would give in. Perhaps in my past life, I had really liked him, or else he wouldn't be so confident now. I knew that Elliot's company could no longer afford to wait. A huge hole was waiting for him to fill. I couldn't be bothered to entertain him, and directly ordered the butler to have him thrown out. "Elliot, please leave quickly. Our young mistress no longer has any relationship with you." "Uncle Wang. It's me, Elliot. Don't you recognize me?" "Sorry, but there's no such person in the Serafini family anymore. Please leave." Uncle Wang's words hit Elliot like a bolt of lightning, freezing him in place. It seemed like he finally remembered. In my past life, I had developed feelings for him after our marriage. A case of love coming after marriage. But in this life, he had passionately confessed to Lillian right after his rebirth. There was no chance for him to marry me or spend a honeymoon with me. The love and hate between us from the past had never even happened this time. But soon, let out a low sigh. Elliot sighed self-deprecating lie. The entanglements from our past life were still fresh in his mind. He couldn't believe that I hadn't left him. After a bitter laugh, Elliot's voice was filled with undeniable exhaustion. "All right, Serafini. I know you're upset about my confession and engagement to Lillian. But didn't you also use Julius to get back at me? My company really can't wait any longer. Hurry up and transfer the money to me, and I'll forget about the past." Seeing Elliot finally give in, the barrage was in an uproar. Why is the male lead still tangled up with the female antagonist after his rebirth? Looks like being alive in son-in-law is his fate. He's doomed to live a life of humiliation. But without the female antagonist's family adopting him, the male lead wouldn't be where he is today, let alone running a company. Even now, without her help, he can't raise money to save his company. I glanced coldly at Elliot and said icily, "You spent the Serafini family's money and resources to start your company. We've been more than lenient with you. Don't push your luck. If you're incapable of running the company, then it's your own fault that it's failing." Elliot's fragile pride seemed to be wounded again. He flared up angrily and retorted, "Serafini, when will you stop being so spoiled? Do you know? It's because you're always so unreasonable and bitter that I can't stand you. Think carefully and then come talk to me." With that, he stormed off, acting as though speaking to him was a privilege. It was laughable. Whether he liked me or not was none of my concern. For the next 2 months, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Elliot didn't show up again. According to the barrage, he had gone to work to raise money. I was enjoying my freedom, spending my days with Julius, eating, drinking, let out a low sigh, and having fun. He was always quietly accompanying me, never saying too much, never lecturing me, and it was easy to be around him. Meanwhile, I was actively helping him find ways to treat his leg. The doctor had said that although Julius had a congenital leg ailment, it wasn't completely beyond recovery. As long as he continued with treatment, there was still a chance for him to heal. I was so busy that I had completely put Elliot out of my mind. But from time to time, the barrage would show updates on his situation, which I treated as entertainment. For example, Elliot was now desperately borrowing money from all over. But hardly anyone was willing to lend him any. Even when they did, it was only a few hundred, which couldn't solve his problems at all. Elliot, now penniless and relying on Lillian for meals, had become a far cry from the man he once was. The lover we couldn't be together with in the past had now developed a rift with him over time spent in daily life. Just when I thought I would never run into Elliot again, I accidentally crossed paths with him while accompanying Julius to a renowned old Chinese doctor for treatment. Elliot's demeanor had changed drastically. The once proud young master, who had been groomed to live a life of luxury, now exuded only restlessness and exhaustion. He sat at a small restaurant next to the medical clinic, eating by himself. He had lost a significant amount of weight and no longer looked as handsome and upright as before. There was a cloud of gloom over his face. While Julius was inside getting acupuncture treatment, I wandered out of the clinic and happened to see Lillian sitting across from him with a plate of fried noodles. With a smile full of self-congratulation, she said, "Elliot, the owner of this place gave us some extra cured meat in this dish. You should try it." She naturally placed the cured meat into his bowl. But I knew Elliot hated eating such smoked foods. He thought they were unhealthy. The male lead is so pitiful. Is he really eating this kind of food every day now? He lived a life of luxury with the Serafini family. How might he end up eating hardship after being reborn? Not just the food, look at what he's wearing. His entire outfit costs less than $50. He used to wear the latest season's luxury brands. Just like I said, everything the male lead had was provided by the female antagonist's family. Without her, he would have been living this ordinary life anyway. As soon as this comment appeared, the scene fell silent. It was harsh but true. Although Elliot was only adopted by the Serafini family, they had never treated him poorly when it came to basic needs. Every meal he had from childhood was specially prepared by the family's nutritionist, just like mine. As for his clothes, the latest seasonal luxury pieces were delivered to him monthly, and he could pick whatever he wanted. Elliot rarely wore anything more than once because there was simply too much. He used to accuse me of being a spoiled, extravagant young lady, but in reality, he wasn't much better. Accustomed to the high life, Elliot was now unable to adjust to these hard times. After a long pause, he still didn't eat the cured meat. He put his chopsticks down and hesitated before speaking to Lillian. "Lillian, can you do me a favor?" "What favor?" "Can you borrow some money from an online lender? It'd be great if I could get a loan at $200,000. I can't get any more loans. But your credit might be better. So there's still hope." Lillian had just taken a bite of her noodles and immediately spat it out, shouting, "You want me to borrow $200,000 and from an online lender? You eat my food, drink my drinks, and took all my $10,000 and savings 2 months ago without paying me back. Now, you still want $20,000 from me?" I couldn't help but shake my head. Elliot had really lost it. To ask Lillian to borrow money from an online loan service was beyond absurd. Lillian, still fuming, continued, "Do you know I could never make $20,000 and a year without eating or drinking? How can you, a grown man, keep asking me for money? Sometimes I really don't know if you're trying to date me or just scam me out of money." The surrounding diners turned to look at them. Elliot's face turned bright red with embarrassment. He couldn't help but complain. "I'm doing all this for you, risking offending the Serafini family. I've always been pampered, and now I can only eat this cheap food. Before, everyone called me President Elliot, with respect. But now, what is this?" Lillian seemed to laugh in anger. "Elliot, is this my fault? You're the one who suddenly confessed to me, promising a grand wedding. And now look at this. You can't even afford the basics anymore. And you're still talking about making a comeback and earning big money. Are you dreaming of earning that in your sleep? At that, the crowd burst into laughter. Elliot was completely jolted awake by the laughter. He had been reborn for 2 months, and the path he had chosen was completely different from the one he had followed in his previous life. Everything seemed to be veering off course. The male and female leads are fighting every day now. This romance is anything but sweet. It's because they have no money. How can love be sweet when you're struggling every day to survive? Love without financial stability is always a pile of scattered sand. Elliot looked up irritably, and his eyes suddenly caught sight of me. A smile of anticipation immediately spread across his face. Serafini, are you here to find me? You must have thought it through. But upon seeing the empty wheelchair at the door of the clinic, his words abruptly caught in his throat. I'm sorry. I was just passing by. You two continue arguing. With that, I turned to leave, afraid that Elliot might chase me down. But I was too slow. Elliot's face turned pale as he rushed after me, questioning. Are you with him every day now? He's my fiancé. What's strange about me being with him? Upon hearing the word fiancé, Elliot fell silent for a moment. After a long pause, he seemed to have exhausted all his strength. Bitterly smiling. Serafini, I know you're with him just to spite me. I didn't expect that after all this, the result would be the same. He looked away and, with great difficulty, spoke again. I lost. Completely lost. You can rest assured. I'll marry you as your father wishes. Wait a minute. I was confused. My father never explicitly said he wants you to marry me. Did he? Even though you came to the Serafini family as a son-in-law, my father already said everything depends on our own wishes. He won't force us. Hearing this, Elliot closed his eyes and finally decided to lay everything bare. Serafini, I was actually reborn. In our past life, we were married. After marriage, you loved me dearly. Although you were willful and spoiled, I always tried my best to tolerate you. Maybe in the past life, I was always thinking about Lillian. But after this rebirth, I finally understood. I do love you. We are the most suited for each other. There was a hint of nostalgia in Elliot's voice. The male lead is truly something else. Is he here to date? It's obvious he's here to take advantage of her. I'd also like to have a rich young lady like her. Actually, the male lead just can't stand a hard life anymore. He thinks being alive and son-in-law of the Serafini family wouldn't be that bad. Though he's suffering inside, at least his life would be comfortable. I think the female antagonist is really clear-headed. Even though she liked the male lead so much in the previous life, she never handed over the real power of the Serafini family to him. The last comment made everything click. So that's what Elliot was upset about in his past life. I never handed over the wealth of the Serafini family to him. In his view, even though I was the legitimate daughter of the Serafini family, I should have become a gentle, considerate wife after marriage, offering him everything from the Serafini family and turning into a woman who would obey his every command. That was his ideal wife. But I wasn't just arrogant and willful, I wasn't foolish. Serafini, having fulfilled my obsession, the person you love most is me. You shouldn't marry Julius. We were really married in our past life. Looking at Elliot's desperately longing eyes, I couldn't help but laugh. The past life he always despised had now turned into a distant, irretrievable memory. The barrage was beginning to sense something was off. I feel like the female antagonist doesn't even love the male lead at all this time. Who hasn't figured this out yet? The female antagonist never liked the male lead in this life. The male lead's rebirth is the most useless one I've ever seen. Everyone keeps saying the female antagonist is chasing the male lead, but I feel like it's always the male lead chasing her. I, the legitimate daughter of the Serafini family, had always been the center of attention since childhood. I couldn't be bothered to entangle myself with a mediocre man. If Elliot truly thought that not being with his first love in his past life was his biggest regret, then in this life, I wished him all the best in fulfilling that wish. After marriage, Julius and I decided to go abroad for our honeymoon. We would live abroad for a while. That old Chinese doctor was indeed quite skilled. After being treated with his silver needles, Julius could now stand. I believed that with time, he would be able to walk normally. Just before we boarded the plane, my father gave me a solemn warning. Serafini, though you've married, the company still needs you to run it. You should spend some time learning from Julius about managing the company. He's better than you in that regard. I smiled and replied, Dad, if it really doesn't work, I'll have Julius marry into our family. Julius immediately nodded, saying, Of course. Everything is up to Serafini. She's the boss. Don't listen to him. You're too honest. If Serafini bullies you, tell me. While my father was still talking, the barrage suddenly flared up again. Elliot's going crazy looking for the female antagonist. The god of wealth is gone. Of course. He's going mad. He's about to call the female antagonist. He still remembers her number. I took out my phone and decisively removed the SIM card. We were about to go abroad. And changing my phone number was only normal. Right? According to the barrage, Elliot had ignored Lillian's feelings and spent several days searching for me. Finally, heading fulfilled y he came up with a plan. He waited at the Serafini family's gate, but after several days, he still hadn't seen me. Finally, heading fulfilled y the butler impatiently told him, Stop wasting your time. Our young mistress has already quietly married Julius. They've flown abroad for their honeymoon. Married? I honeymoon? No, she wouldn't marry anyone else. Elliot tremblingly dialed the number he knew all too well. But all he heard was the cold, mechanical voice of the phone system. Sorry. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Elliot froze in place. He looked down at his phone carefully, confirming that he hadn't dialed it wrong. It was as though he had finally realized what he had lost, and his entire body collapsed. Suddenly, someone shoved him hard. Elliot, pay me back. You owe me $800. You promised to pay me back last month, but you still haven't. The man in front of him was Elliot's good friend, the one who had urged him in the past life to do everything to seize the real power of the Serafini family. Seeing this, Elliot rubbed his forehead in frustration. He really regretted being so gullible back then. Instead of living a good life, he had chosen to seek trouble for himself. After all the hardships since his rebirth, now all he could think about was Serafini. You can take it. This is the last of my money. With that, Elliot transferred the last $800 to his friend. Paying back debts is a matter of course. Don't make it sound like I stole from you. After taking the money, his friend cursed and walked away, leaving Elliot alone in a daze. Serafini had married. She really married someone else. What was he supposed to do now? Was he never going to return to the Serafini family? Why had he even been reborn? If only he hadn't been reborn. Just as Elliot was in a daze, his phone suddenly rang. He quickly answered, his face lighting up, but he didn't hear the voice he had hoped for. Hello. This is the City Women's and Children's Hospital. Your girlfriend Lillian fainted. After examination, we found she is pregnant. Please come to the hospital as soon as possible. Frustration flooded Elliot's mind, and he was on the verge of breaking down. He didn't want to go, but eventually, he went because of his conscience. Elliot, let's just have a simple wedding. Otherwise, what should we do about the baby? We can't let him be born without a name. Upon hearing Lillian's words, Elliot numbly replied, Abort it. We can't afford to raise this child. I wasn't planning to marry you. The one I want to marry is Serafini. Lillian began crying loudly. What's wrong with you? Serafini is already married. No, she won't marry anyone else. Elliot muttered to himself. The person she loves is me. She's just angry at me. That's why she's avoiding me. As long as I find her, apologize properly, and offer her an out, we'll be fine again. With that, he suddenly ran out, urgently grabbing a shared bike. In their past life, the Serafini family had bought a new house for them as a wedding gift. Elliot believed that Serafini must be there. He stubbornly believed that as long as he found her, they still had a chance to marry. Then, let out a low sigh, they would continue down the path of their previous life, and he would once again be the live-in son-in-law of the Serafini family, never having to worry about money again. When he finally arrived at the wedding villa, He was stopped by the security guard at the entrance. "Private property. Do not enter." At that moment, Elliot's mind was in turmoil, even mixing up his past and present lives. "I'm the son-in-law of the Serafini family. I used to stay here all the time. Don't you remember me?" The security guard looked him over but didn't recognize the now gaunt Elliot. Coldly, he said, "Who's this crazy person? Go away. We can't have someone like you, a poor wretch, as our son-in-law. He's the young master of the Julius family." One of the Serafini family servants sneered. Upon hearing this, Elliot felt a chill run through him. This was the first time he had ever been insulted by a servant of the Serafini family. Had the Serafini family truly cast him out for good? Given Serafini's father's clear-cut sense of right and wrong, this wasn't hard to believe. It was precisely this reason that Elliot never dared to approach Serafini's father for help. Suddenly, his phone rang again. Elliot's eyes lit up. But when he answered, it was still not the voice he had hoped for. "Elliot, your girlfriend has decided to get an abortion. Please come to the hospital to sign the consent forms and accompany her." The time abroad passed quickly. It was as if Elliot had completely vanished from my life. We had grown up together, yet our differing personalities and values had slowly pulled us apart. However, the live feed still occasionally reported on his whereabouts, giving a sense of his existence before me. After her abortion, Lillian had completely given up on Elliot. The only communication they had since then was about him repaying the money he owed. As for Elliot now, he had long since transformed from the pampered young master to a hard-working man juggling multiple jobs. But even with all that, he was still struggling immensely. The crushing weight of his debt threatened to overwhelm him. During this time, he had tried to seek forgiveness from his father, but was thrown out before even stepping through the gates of the Serafini family estate. Between working, he still made an effort to inquire about my whereabouts. But alas, having fulfilled my Sasha, we were separated by thousands of miles. Even if he wanted to, he had neither the money nor the means. Until I returned to the country. Elliot, somehow learning of my return, rushed to find me the very moment he heard the long-forgotten live feed bust to life again. Wait. Is this the male lead? I almost didn't recognize him. He's not even a male lead anymore. Is he? More like a supporting character. Though that's too generous, he's just an ordinary passerby. Elliot is really broke. All these years of being reborn, working multiple jobs to save up for a business only to fail and then bragging about his glorious past. No wonder he's still poor. Elliot had obviously made an effort to spruce himself up, but it couldn't hide the exhaustion in his appearance. Several times, he tried to approach me and speak, but each time he was stopped by bodyguards. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, just before I was about to get into my car, he stubbornly chased me down and asked, "Serafini, do you really not love me anymore?" I didn't want to engage in such a pointless conversation. I simply got into the car and drove off. Through the rearview mirror, I clearly saw Elliot collapse to his knees, despair consuming him as he wept in pain. End of the novel. On the day the college entrance exam results were announced, I found out that my sister had been accepted into the prestigious military academy. The entire family was in a state of celebration. Lilith, tearfully embracing everyone, was overwhelmed with excitement, but I just laughed. In my previous life, she had stolen my identity and medical report to claim the acceptance letter that I had dreamed of. She became a graceful military officer, while I lost all opportunities because my records were swapped. She even sent me a humiliating letter. "Sister, alignment, your health is so poor. Don't go to the military to suffer. This is for your own good." This time, before the physical exam, I secretly took banned drugs for 3 months. You wanted to take my place, didn't you? Well, let's see you walk through the political review and the re-exam. Let's see if you can replace me there too. In the living room, Lilith was surrounded by our parents and her fiancé, Dylan, who stood in the center. Dylan, the man who was once my fiancé in my past life, now looked at her with doting eyes. Lilith leaned into his embrace, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "Dylan, I'm scared. The military is so tough. What if I can't handle it? Dylan gently stroked her hair. His voice soft in a way I had never heard before. Don't be afraid. I'm here for you. But your sister. Her health isn't good. And she doesn't even know what she wants. Don't let her influence you. Bang. The cork of the champagne bottle shot up to the ceiling. Golden liquid leapt joyfully in crystal glasses. And the sound of bursting bubbles was drowned out by the laughter filling the room. Cheers. To our family's female hero. To the honor of the Alara family. Ah. Cheers. Dad. Hugh, with a beaming face, raised his glass high, as though he himself had been accepted into the military academy. Mom, Margaret, wiped away a tear and smiled. My Lilith is so accomplished. She'll be serving the country now. I'm so proud of you. Surrounded by the crowd, Lilith, in her white dress, was crying, looking pitiful and delicate. She took the tissue Dylan handed her, choking on her words as she said, Dad. Mom. It's all thanks to you. I'm just lucky. As she spoke, her eyes flicked towards me. A barely perceptible look of provocation and smugness in her gaze. I leaned against the corner of the sofa, holding a glass of water, quietly watching this celebration that had been prepared for me, but where I was not the star. I smiled. A genuine, joyful smile. Dylan noticed my expression, his brows furrowing instantly, the warmth in his eyes turning cold. Alara. What's so funny? His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to silence the lively chatter in the living room. All eyes turned to me. Mom's face dark, and immediately. Alara. Your sister got into the military academy. And you can't even be happy for her? What's your problem? Yeah. Lilith immediately chimed in, her voice laden with just the right amount of grievance. Sister. I know you didn't do well this time. And I understand you're upset. But you can act like this. The military academy was my dream too. And Her eyes reddened again, as if I had done something unforgivable. Your dream? I put down my glass of water and stood slowly. Wasn't your dream to be a fashion designer? When did it change to serving in the military? Lilith's face paled. She was speechless, looking to Dylan for help. Dylan quickly stepped in front of her, shielding her, and shot me a warning look. Alara. Enough. Lilith has the courage and determination to pursue this. You should support her. Not be here making sarcastic remarks. Support? I repeated, feeling the word drip with irony. Fine. I support it. I support her going. I looked directly at Lilith, speaking slowly and deliberately. After all, she's using my name, my ID number, and my medical report. If she doesn't go, should I go instead? The air in the room froze instantly. Mom and Dad's faces dark and to an extreme. You're talking nonsense. Hugh slammed his hand on the table. We had connections change that for your sister. Your health is so bad that you'd collapse in a breeze. If you went to the military, it'd be a death sentence. Lilith is going in your place to earn you some good karma. Yeah. Sister. Lilith, hiding behind Dylan, peered out with her tear-filled eyes. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I begged Mom and Dad because I didn't want you to suffer in such a hard place. Please don't blame Mom and Dad. If you want to blame anyone, blame me. Classic green tea lines. I couldn't be bothered to play along. I laid the cards on the table. All right. I don't blame you. I wish Lilith a bright future and success. With that, I turned to walk back to my room. But Dylan grabbed my wrist. His grip so tight that it almost crushed my bones. He lowered his voice and whispered in my ear. Alara. Get rid of that disgusting look. Lilith has a kind heart. Unlike you, bitter and stupid. If you don't behave at tonight's party, I'll make sure you have no place in this family. His words were cold and cruel. I wrenched my arm away from his grip, raising my eyes to meet the gaze that once made me fall. Dylan, you'll soon find out who the bitter and stupid one really is. I didn't spare them another glance, heading straight to my room and locking the door behind me. Outside, Lilith's sobs and the comforting words of my parents, along with Dylan, stop crying. It's not worth getting upset over someone like that, were clear through the door. I lay on the bed, feeling the subtle shivers coursing through me as the drugs slowly circulated in my bloodstream. Don't worry. The real show is just beginning. The next morning, I was woken up by voices coming from the living room. It was Dylan and Lilith. Dylan, do we really have to do this? Will sister be too pitiful? Lilith's voice was soft enough to squeeze water out of. Pitiful? Dylan sneered. Didn't you see her yesterday? Unaware of what's good for her. My mom's right. The engagement was set long ago. But the choice of bride must be someone worthy of the Dylan family. You're smart. Considerate. And soon to be an officer, you're the perfect choice. But that's still sisters. There's no but. Dylan interrupted her. Alara's temperament would be a disaster for our family. Lilith. You don't need to worry about it. Leave it to me and my mom. Your task now is to get ready for the military academy. I leaned against the door, listening to the conversation that decided my fate, my heart numb. In my past life, it had been the same. The Dylan family and mine had been family friends for generations. My engagement with Dylan had been arranged since childhood. I once thought that was my destiny. I worked hard, exercised fiercely, and strived to get into the military academy, hoping to stand by his side. At that time, his attitude toward me was not exactly warm, but polite and kind. He would tutor me, visit me when I was sick, and take me to the military compound to watch him train. I thought that was love. Until Lilith showed interest in Dylan too. She started to imitate me, wearing clothes in my style, reading the books I liked, even mimicking my mannerisms, clumsily trailing behind Dylan. At first, Dylan remained indifferent to her. But Lilith's methods were too subtle. She would always act dependent and admiring in front of me, while secretly hinting to Dylan that I was frail, domineering, and unsuitable to be the daughter-in-law of the Dylan family. A drop of water doesn't show much after a day or two. But day after day, even the strongest dam will be eroded. Dylan's gaze toward me slowly changed. From gentle, to indifferent, to impatient, and finally, to disgust. The final straw came with that military academy acceptance letter. When he chose to believe Lilith's words, thinking I was jealous and couldn't tolerate my younger sister, I knew everything was over. The footsteps outside grew distant. I opened the door, and my mother, Margaret, was standing there with a bowl of congee, her face painted with fake concern. Alara, you're awake? Come, Henningso filled my obsession. Drink this bird's nest congee. It will nourish your body. Look at you. Your face is as white as paper. I looked at her, finding it laughable. Now you're concerned about my health? Margaret's face stiffened. But she quickly forced a smile. You child, what nonsense are you saying? When have I not cared for you? Drink it, and then I'll have something to tell you. I didn't move. She stood awkwardly for a moment before bluntly getting to the point. Alara. About the Dylan family. You've heard. Dylan's mother thinks that Lilith now has a better future than you. And she's more suitable for Dylan. You see, your engagement with Dylan. Maybe you should let Lilith have it? She spoke in a tone of suggestion, but her eyes were full of command. Don't worry. We won't mistreat you. Once you're better, I'll find you a good marriage. One that will be no worse than the Dylan family's. I looked at her and suddenly asked, Mom, do you remember when I was little and allergic to mangoes? I almost died from it. Margaret froze. Why bring that up now? I remember. That day you and Dad took Lilith to the amusement park. I was home alone, and accidentally ate the mango cake you left in the fridge. I called you over and over, but you didn't answer. My voice was calm, as if recounting someone else's story. Later, it was the neighbor Ad who found me in shock and took me to the hospital. The doctor said if it had been 10 minutes later, I would have been dead. Margaret's face grew paler, her lips trembling. I had put my phone on silent. I didn't hear. Yeah, you didn't hear. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Just like now. You don't hear what my heart is saying. I took the bowl of congee, and in her stunned gaze, I walked to the balcony and poured it into the flower bed below. Tell the Dylan family. I agreed to break the engagement. I turned around and looked at Margaret, whose face had gone as white as a sheet. But it's not a concession. I don't want it. Dylan. And this nauseating family, the Alara family. Alara. Don't care about. My words exploded like a bomb in the Alara family. Hugh rushed over, raising his hand as if to hit me. You ungrateful daughter. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to say you don't want it? The Alara family raised you. And now when it's time to make a contribution, this is your attitude? I didn't dodge, staring directly into his eyes. The slap never landed. Margaret intervened. Hugh. What are you doing? The child doesn't understand. Speak to her properly. She turned to me, trying to coax me. Alara. Don't speak out of anger. The Dylan family is a prestigious family. If you break the engagement, how will you marry anyone else? Whether I marry or not, you don't need to worry about it. I bypassed them and returned to my room. You've gone too far. This is outrageous. Hugh was fuming outside. In the afternoon, Dylan came. He came alone, holding a velvet box in his hand. He placed it on the table in front of me, opened it, and inside was the sapphire necklace my grandmother had left me. In my previous life, he had borrowed it from me and given it to Lilith, who was about to attend military school, under the pretense of bringing her good fortune. This time, because I had flipped the table first, he personally returned it. Alara. I know you're upset. His posture was low, though his tone still carried the condescension of someone offering charity. Breaking the engagement was thoughtless of me. Too hasty. But Lilith and I were sincere. She's kind and pure, unlike you. He paused, as if searching for the right word. Unlike me what? I finished for him. Unlike me for being so vicious, ungrateful, and unworthy of the occasion, right? Dylan's face darkened. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. I picked up the necklace, its cold touch spreading up my fingers. Dylan, you don't need to explain. Who you want to marry is your freedom. But let me tell you, don't think you can enjoy Lilith's kindness and purity while pretending to show me this feigned deep affection. Don't you see the contradiction? I didn't. His voice rose in irritation, as though my words had pricked him. I've always what? I interrupted him. Always thought of me as the perfect fiancée? An accessory to flaunt your status? Dylan, you love the woman who will become Dylan's mother. Not me. Alara. He was rendered speechless. And after a long pause, he finally squeezed out a word through clenched teeth. Unreasonable. Right. I am unreasonable. I placed the necklace back around my neck. So take your marriage contract and go find your reasonable Lilith. And from now on, don't bother showing your face in front of me. Alara. He suddenly stood up, towering over me. You'll regret this. Leave me. Leave the Alara family. And you'll be nothing. Is that so? I looked up, meeting his gaze. We'll see. In the end, Dylan stormed out, slamming the door behind him. That evening, the Alara family held a family tribunal. I, Hugh, Margaret, and Lilith sat in the living room, the atmosphere tense. Alara, you have to explain yourself today. Hugh was the first to speak, enraged. What did you say to Dylan? His face was so dark when he left. Are you deliberately ruining your sister's marriage? Sister, why are you doing this to Dylan? Lilith's eyes were red from crying. He just wanted you to bless us. We'll still be one family. One family? I laughed. Lilith, ask yourself, did you ever treat me like family? Enough. Margaret's sharp voice cracked through the air like a whip. Alara, haven't you caused enough trouble? You have two choices now. One, go and apologize to Dylan immediately and beg for his forgiveness. To pack your things and get out of this house. It was an ultimatum. The final straw that broke the camel's back. I stared at the three faces I had once believed were my dearest kin. On them flickered anger. Grievance, having fulfilled my sorry. Coldness, yet not a trace of warmth. My heart, the one that had once beat and ached for them, froze solid at that moment, turning to stone. I rose without a word and walked back to my room. Behind me, Margaret's shrill cry chased after me. Elara. What's your choice? I opened the wardrobe. Only a few worn clothes hung inside. I pulled out a small suitcase and began packing. There wasn't much. In no time, it was full. When I dragged the suitcase into the living room, all three of them stared at me, stunned. A flicker of panic crossed Lilith's eyes before it was quickly replaced by a glint of glee. Shock and disbelief froze Hugh and Margaret's faces. Perhaps, in their eyes, I had always been soft, obedient, only capable of crying and enduring. How could I dare to actually leave? At the doorway, I changed my shoes. My hand rested on the doorknob. I turned back and gave the place one last look. The so-called home. I choose the second. I said it clearly. From today on, I, Elara, sever all ties with your Elara family. Dragging my suitcase, I walked down the deserted streets at night. The midsummer wind carried a sticky heat, but it touched me with no warmth at all. I had nothing. My ID card and bank card were all locked away in Margaret's safe. I had taken only one photo of my grandmother and me, and the sapphire necklace around my neck. I didn't know where to go. The side effects of the drugs began creeping in, waves of dizziness and nausea making my steps increasingly unsteady. Just as I was about to collapse, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? It's me. A clear, steady male voice. I froze before recognizing it. Theodore? Theodore, my grandmother's attending physician while she was alive, and the only one who knew all my medical secrets. The one who had prescribed me the banned drugs and forged my medical records. Where are you? His voice sounded taut with concern. I named an intersection. Stay there. Don't move. I'm coming. The call ended. I slid down against a roadside railing, hugging my knees as strings of car lights blurred before my eyes. Less than 10 minutes later, a black SUV stopped in front of me. The door opened. Theodore, still in his white coat, strode toward me. His brows knotted tight at the sight of my pale face and the suitcase at my feet. They threw you out? I shook my head, then nodded. Let's say I walked out myself. He asked nothing more, only shrugged off his coat and draped it over my shoulders before lifting me into his arms. Hospital first. I lacked the strength to resist. Letting him settle me into the back seat. The heater was on. My taut nerves finally slackened, and my consciousness began to drift. In that haze, I seemed to slip back into my past life. Lilith, resplendent in her crisp uniform, stood under a spotlight, receiving praise and applause from everyone. Dylan at her side, eyes brimming with love. And me, curled up in a dark, damp rental room, coughing blood, staring out at a sea of lights none of them lit for me. Elara. Elara. Someone was calling my name. I jerked awake to meet Theodore's worried gaze. Bad dream? He handed me a cup of warm water. I realized I was already in a hospital room. A drip running into my hand. Thank you. My voice was hoarse as I took the cup. No need for thanks. He sat down by my bed. The drug levels in your body have reached the threshold. You can't keep taking them. From now on you need real care. I nodded. I know. The timing's about right. He was right. I couldn't take them anymore because tomorrow was the day Lilith would go to the military academy under my name, facing the final re-examination and political vetting. That grand avenue opened for her was about to become a one-way road to hell. As I was thinking, Theodore's phone rang. He glanced at the display and handed it to me. For you. It was Dylan. I didn't answer. The phone kept ringing again and again. Finally Theodore picked up and put it on speaker. Where's Elara? Dylan's voice was coiled with suppressed rage. Dylan. Elara isn't able to take calls right now. Theodore's tone was calm. Who are you? Put her on. Dylan barked, as if issuing orders. I'm her doctor. She needs rest. Doctor? Dylan gave a cold laugh. What game is she playing now? Running away? Faking illness? Fishing for sympathy? Elara, I'm telling you this trick doesn't work on me. Get your ass back here. Each word landed like a poisoned nail, stabbing straight into my heart. Even though I'd already decided to let go, hearing those words still sent a fine, cold ache through me. I took the phone from Theodore. And with every ounce of strength left in me, spoke into the receiver. Slow and clear. Dylan. Listen carefully. I wish you and Lilith a long and happy life, childless, still deaf. Then I hung up. Blocked the number. And did it all in one smooth motion. The room fell quiet again. Theodore looked at me. His gaze complicated. Was it worth it? I didn't answer. The next day, the entire Alara family turned out in pomp to send Lilith off to the military academy. They believed it was the start of a brilliant future. I lay in my hospital bed, watching the bright sunlight outside, quietly waiting for the verdict to fall. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Theodore. Only one line. Fish caught. Re-examination initiated. Samples expedited to Capital Military Hospital. Banned substances involved, subject detained on the spot. Level 1 response. I stared at the text and laughed. The surge of emotion in my chest made me cough violently. Blackness swam before my eyes. The dizziness swallowed me whole. I tried to reach for the call button, but couldn't even lift a finger. My body had finally reached its limit. Before the darkness took me completely, I seemed to see Lilith in prison garb, glaring at me from behind iron bars, spitting venomous curses. Perfect. This hell you're walking into for me couldn't be more perfect. When I woke up again, the sky outside had already darkened. The familiar smell of disinfectant filled the air. And Theodore was sitting by my bedside, peeling an apple. The soft glow of the lamp cast a halo around him. Awake? He asked, noticing my eyes opening. He set the knife down. How do you feel? Hungry, I said, licking my dry, cracked lips. That was my most immediate feeling. He smiled and brought over the porridge and side dishes he'd prepared earlier. I knew you'd be hungry. I drank 2 bowls of porridge in quick succession. Feeling warmth spread through my stomach, and a little of my strength returned. And how did things go over there? I asked. Well, what else could have happened? Theodore said as he cut the apple into small pieces and handed them to me. The military academy detained a person right away. Initial tests were positive, and the samples have been sent to the central hospital for detailed analysis overnight. Due to the severity, the military security department has intervened and set up a special task force. He paused, then continued. Your dear sister Lilith. She must have been overwhelmed by all of this. Her psychological defenses broke immediately. And she confessed everything on the spot. Impersonation. Falsifying documents. One by one she confessed it all. This result was exactly what I had expected. Lilith had been spoiled, accustomed to getting her way. How could she handle that kind of pressure? What about my parents? They've been taken away for questioning as well, Theodore replied, looking at me seriously. Alara. Things will be resolved soon. Are you ready? I understood what he meant. With Lilith's fall and the exposure of her impersonation, the spot would theoretically go back to its rightful owner, me. Alara. I shook my head. My health. I can't go. The medication had already drained me, leaving my foundation hollowed out. This lifetime, I was destined to have no connection to the military. But that was fine. What I wanted wasn't that spot anyway. What I wanted was for all of them to pay the price for their actions. Just then, went out a low sigh. The door to the hospital room was suddenly pushed open. Dylan stormed in. His eyes were bloodshot. His suit jacket wrinkled and disheveled, looking like a mess. He glared at me, his gaze full of the tension before a storm. It was you, wasn't it? He demanded, stepping closer. You planned everything. You ruined Lilith. I ruined her? I looked at his accusing face and couldn't help but laugh. Dylan, can you think before you speak? It was Lilith who used my name and my records to impersonate me at the military academy. Not me. She's the one committing fraud. The one committing a crime. It's her fault she got caught. But you knew she'd go. And yet what? I met his eyes. I took the medicine before the physical exam? Yes, Helen Cardo. I did. So what? If she hadn't stolen my life, that medicine would have only ruined me. Since she wanted to be me so badly, I had to give her a nice little gift. It's called getting what you deserve. My bluntness made Dylan's face turn as pale as a ghost. He probably hadn't expected me to admit it so readily. You. How did you become like this? He murmured, disbelief and confusion in his eyes. You weren't like this. You used to be kind and gentle. Kind? Gentle? I laughed out loud. My kindness was taken for stupidity. My gentleness was trampled underfoot. Dylan, Wanara sigh. You and the Ilara family killed the old Ilara. No. It's not like that. He seemed to want to defend himself. At that moment, the sound of steady footsteps came from the door. Two men in military uniforms entered, their expression serious. The leader, wearing the rank of a staff officer, had a gaze as sharp as an eagle's. He scanned the room and then fixed his eyes on me. Are you Ilara? I nodded. I'm Octavius from the General Political Department's Security Division. Regarding the malicious replacement of your military enrollment records, we need you to come with us and provide a detailed statement. His voice was emotionless. I looked at Theodore, who nodded at me. I threw off the covers and started to get out of bed, but Dylan suddenly rushed over, blocking my way and speaking to the officer. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. Octavius interrupted him impatiently. Who are you? I'm Dylan, from the Eastern Theater Command. I don't care who you are. Octavius's eyes grew colder. We're proceeding with the case according to the law. Please step aside and don't obstruct our duties. Dylan's face flickered with a mix of rage and fear. He'd probably never been treated this way in his life. I walked around him, calmly addressing Octavius. Sir, I'll go with you. The office of the General Political Department was solemn and dignified. The words loyalty, justice gleamed brightly on the wall under the lights. I sat behind the interrogation table, facing Octavius and a young recorder. The entire process was simpler than I had expected. I didn't hide anything, nor did I exaggerate. I just recounted everything as it had happened. How Lilith had manipulated the situation, convincing my parents. How they had used connections to alter the records. And how Dylan had favored Lilith, forcing me to break off the engagement. Of course, when it came to my taking the medicine, I gave a different explanation. I've always had poor health, and I've been secretly taking a special foreign medicine to manage it. I didn't know the medicine's ingredients were illegal. I really wanted to go to the military academy. And I was afraid my health would cause me to fail the exam. I squeezed out a few well-timed tears. And with my pale face, it looked extremely believable. I never thought my sister would do such a thing. She took everything from me, and took that ticking time bomb with her. Octavius listened quietly without interrupting. Once I was finished, he spoke, his voice softer. Your primary physician is Theodore? Yes. He can verify your medical history? Yes. Octavius nodded and told the recorder. Notify the military hospital to verify Ilara's medical records. He turned back to me. Comrade Ilara, I apologize for the inconvenience. The army won't overlook anyone who breaks the law. But we also won't wrong anyone who's innocent. Please rest at the guest house. Once the investigation is concluded, we'll give you an explanation. I was assigned a clean room in the guest house. Theodore came quickly, bringing a change of clothes and some personal items. It's all taken care of, he said. The hospital has full records. It's seamless. Thank you, Theodore. This time, my gratitude was sincere. Without him, my plan wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Fool. He ruffled my hair, his touch natural and affectionate. Your grandmother entrusted you to me. Of course I have to take care of you. Rest well, and leave the rest to me. The next 2 days passed in tranquility. On the third day, Octavius came to see me again. Things are pretty much settled. He handed me a file. Lilith has confessed to all the crimes, and she will be handed over to a military court, facing charges of fraud and breaking military family relations. Your parents are under investigation for alleged collusion and abuse of power. As for Dylan, he paused, looking at me. Though he wasn't directly involved, as an accomplice, he is guilty of serious negligence and bias. He has kept his military rank and position, But he's received a formal reprimand. And he must immediately break off the engagement with Lilith. This result was better than I had expected. I understand. I signed the document calmly. There's one more thing. Octavius continued. Your enlistment quota is still valid. According to higher-level decisions. However, given your health condition, we suggest that you take a year off to rest and recover before reporting for duty next year. Would you be willing to do that? I looked up at him. In his eyes, I saw sincerity and a touch of regret. I shook my head. Thank you for your consideration, sir. But I won't be going. Octavius froze. Why? This was the opportunity you'd been dreaming of. Because my dreams have already been destroyed by them. I smiled bitterly. Right now, all I want is to start a new life. I walked out of the security building into the glaring sunlight. Dylan was waiting at the door. In the few days we had been apart, he had lost a lot of weight. A stubble had grown on his chin. And his eyes were filled with exhaustion and regret. Alara. He called my name. His voice hoarse. I ignored him and kept walking. He caught up and blocked my way. Can we talk? Just for 5 minutes? There's nothing to talk about between us. There is. He looked at me stubbornly. I know I was wrong. Alara. I really do. I shouldn't have doubted you. I shouldn't have favored Lilith. Please. Give me another chance. Another chance? I looked at him, finding the scene absurdly laughable. Dylan. Have you forgotten what you said? You called me disgusting. Ungrateful. Said I wasn't even worthy of staying in the Alara family. His face went pale in an instant. I was angry. What you say in anger is your true feelings. I interrupted him. Dylan. You never loved me. What you loved was the image of the perfect young mistress of the Dylan family, that fit all your requirements. At first, you thought that person was me. Then, let out a low sigh. You thought Lilith was more suitable. That's all. No. That's not true. He grabbed my arm excitedly. I love you. It's always been you. I looked at him, suddenly finding it all pointless. Dylan, having fulfilled my obsession. Do you know? One of the items in the military academy's political review is about family relationships. One of the charges against Lilith is called breaking military family relations. I watched his face turn gradually white, and spoke clearly, word by word. And you, Dylan, as my former fiancé, played a disgraceful role in this farce. Do you think, when this review report is submitted, it won't have a huge impact on your future? I didn't wait to see the despair in his face. I turned and called a taxi. Through the rearview mirror, I saw him standing motionless, like a soulless statue. I moved out of the guest house, using my grandmother's necklace as collateral to rent a small apartment. Theodore helped me with everything from finding the apartment to furnishing it. He took care of nearly everything. You're a patient now. Leave these things to me, he always said, making sure everything was arranged meticulously. My life settled into a calm I had never known before. During the day, I attended university lectures as an auditor. In the evening, Theodore would come over to do acupuncture and help me recover. I kept up with the news about the Alara family. The Hugh family's group collapsed because Hugh was under investigation. Their stock plummeted, and their financial chain broke, leading to an announcement of bankruptcy. Margaret couldn't bear the shock and suffered a mental breakdown, ending up in a sanatorium. As for Lilith, the military court sentenced her to 10 years. A young woman's best years would be spent behind bars. When I saw these news reports, my heart remained untouched. It wasn't that I had stopped hating them, it was simply that I no longer cared. They were like a few stones I kicked aside on the road of my life, kicking up some dust. But the road still kept going forward. The only thing still haunting me in my life was Dylan. He came to stand under my apartment building nearly every day. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes late at night. He never knocked on my door. Never called. He just stood downstairs for hours at a time. Like a stubborn, pitiful stone statue of a waiting husband. I never went down to see him. One day, after Theodore finished my acupuncture, he was about to leave when he glanced out the window and saw Dylan standing below. He's still there, Theodore said calmly. Let him be. I closed my eyes, feeling the slight tingling sensation from the needles. Alara, Theodore suddenly asked, do you still have feelings for him? I opened my eyes, thought for a moment, and then shook my head. No, no love. No hate. To me, he's just a passerby who made a mistake. Theodore smiled, his eyes shining brightly. That's good. After he left, I received an unexpected call. It was Dylan's mother. Her voice was as haughty as ever, but tinged with an unmistakable sense of urgency. Alara, come out. We need to talk. I don't think there's anything for us to talk about. Don't you care about Dylan at all? He's already submitted his transfer application to the military district for you. I froze. Transfer? For someone like Dylan, a promising young officer, transferring was almost like destroying his future. He's waiting for you at the CAF at the entrance of the military compound. Dylan's mother hung up after that. I hesitated for a long time but eventually decided to go. It wasn't out of pity. I simply wanted to put an end to this absurd past with my own hands. In the CAF, Dylan sat by the window, his back turned, looking desolate. He had lost a lot of weight, dressed in casual clothes, no longer carrying the sharpness and stature he once had in his military uniform. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Alara, you're here. I didn't sit down but stood opposite him. I came to tell you that your decisions have nothing to do with me. You don't need to do any of this to try and win me back. And don't think for a sec, and you can manipulate me with it. No, that's not it. He stood up eagerly. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I just want to make it up to you. Make it up to me? I laughed. How? Make up for the life you stole from me? Make up for the dignity you trampled on? Or perhaps make up for the body you drained with drugs? Each word I spoke made his already pale face even paler. I'm sorry, was all he could say. Dylan, save your cheap apology, I said. My gaze icy. I won't forgive you. Never. I turned to leave. But suddenly, he hugged me from behind. Alara, don't go. Please, Heather too. Don't go. His voice cracked, full of desperation like a helpless child. I know I was wrong. I'm a bastard. I'm not even human. Hit me. Yell at me. Anything. Just don't leave me. His arms were tightly around me, and I couldn't escape. At that moment, the door to the CAF opened, and Theodore stepped in. When he saw what was happening, his expression instantly turned cold. He strode forward, grabbing Dylan's wrist and twisting it sharply. Dylan winced in pain and had to release me. Theodore. He positioned himself between us, his voice void of warmth. Please. Respect yourself. Who are you? What does it have to do with you if I'm talking to Alara? Dylan jerked his wrist free, his hostility clear. I'm someone you don't have the right to know. Theodore replied, unwavering. You only need to know that Alara doesn't want to see you. Now, leave. Who are you to decide for her? Dylan turned to me, his eyes filled with hurt and pleading. Alara, you. Please. Don't come into my life again. My words were the last straw. He staggered back a step, the light in his eyes completely extinguished. Why? Why won't you give me even one chance? Because the harm you've caused me was never just one time. I replied calmly, looking him straight in the eyes. Every time you chose to believe Lilith over me. Every time you watched as my parents scolded me and did nothing. Every time you looked at me with that condescending gaze. You wasted any chance we had. My life has already been destroyed by you once. I've worked so hard to crawl out of that hole, and I don't want to fall into it again. Dylan, didn't you say you wanted to make it up to me? I looked at him, each word deliberate. Then the best way you can make it up to me is by disappearing from my world completely. If you truly want to show me kindness, the greatest gift you can give me is to stay out of my sight and out of my life. With that, I turned away and left the CAF with Theodore. We didn't look back. I didn't know how long Dylan stayed there, or if he eventually withdrew that application for reassignment. None of that mattered to me anymore. From that day on, Dylan really disappeared from my world. My life returned to calm and normalcy, under Theodore's careful care. My health improved day by day. Although I couldn't engage in strenuous exercise, I was as close to normal as one could get. I applied to a university abroad to study psychology, a field I had always been interested in. The offer came through quickly. Before I left, Theodore took me out for a final meal. It was at the same restaurant we often visited. At that same window-side table. Living on your own, you have to learn to take care of yourself, he said, putting food in my bowl, fussing over me like an old father. I know, Theodore. I teased him with a smile. You're more nagging than my mother. His hand paused, then he smiled back. Then I won't say anything more. The meal ended on a light, pleasant note. As we were leaving, Theodore suddenly called me. Alara. Huh? I turned around. He pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket and handed it to me. I opened it to find a bracelet. It was simple and designed a fine platinum chain with a small blue sapphire carved into the shape of a leaf. The color was identical to the necklace I wore around my neck. This is. Your grandmother had actually prepared a set of jewelry for you, Theodore said gently, his gaze soft. She gave you the necklace. This bracelet, she said, was for your future husband to put on you when you got married. She gave it to me for safekeeping. And now I'm giving it to you. My eyes welled up in an instant. So my grandmother had prepared everything for me long ago. Theodore. Don't cry, he said, lifting his hand to gently wipe away my tears. Your grandmother wanted you to be happy for the rest of your life. Let go of the unhappy people and things from the past. I looked at him, seeing the tenderness and determination in his eyes. And suddenly, I asked a question I'd been wanting to ask for a long time. Theodore, do you like me? He didn't shy away, and nodded calmly. Yes. When did that start? A long time ago. He smiled. Back when you still saw me as just the nagging doctor brother. My heart skipped a beat. Theodore's confession was like a stone thrown into the still waters of my heart, sending ripples throughout. I stood there, unsure of how to respond. He seemed to sense my discomfort and didn't press me further, simply placing the bracelet into my hand. Don't feel pressured. I'm telling you this not to make you uncomfortable, but to let you know that you're a wonderful person, and you deserve to be loved. Whatever choice you make, I'll support you. He took a step back, putting a safe distance between us. Go rest early. You still have a flight to catch tomorrow. He waved at me, then turned and left, his back both graceful and solitary. I held the cold bracelet in my palm, watching him disappear into the night, my heart at angle of emotions. The next day, I boarded a flight to a foreign country alone. I didn't tell Theodore I changed my flight and left early. I needed time and space to clear my thoughts. In the new environment, with a new life, the shadows of the past began to fade. I threw myself into my studies, actively participated in club activities, and made many friends from different countries. My life became fulfilling and busy. Theodore and I stayed in touch. We shared our lives like friends do. He would tell me about interesting patients he'd seen, and I'd complain about the food at our university cafeteria. We never mentioned the confession from that night, as if it had just been a harmless joke, but I knew it wasn't. I could feel it. He was still waiting, in a quiet and gentle way. He was guarding me, waiting for me. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. I had completed most of my studies and, with excellent grades, earned the qualification for a master's and doctoral program. My mentor, a respected professor in the field of psychology, had high hopes for me and invited me to join his research team. Everything was moving in a positive direction. One day, I received an unfamiliar call from home. On the other end was an old, frail voice. Is this Alara? I paused for a long time, finally recognizing the voice Margaret's. It's me. I let out a low sigh. I replied, my tone flat. Alara. You come back and see your mother. Okay? Your mother misses you. She started crying. Your father. He couldn't hold on. He passed away. I was silent, not saying a word. I know. We've wronged you. It's all our fault. But we are your parents. Alara, please come back. Come and see your father for the last time. Her sobs were sharp and desperate. If I had heard this 2 years ago, maybe it would have stirred something inside me. But now, my heart was as calm as still water. I can't go back, I said. I'm busy with school. I don't have the time. Alara. On the other end, her voice changed. Sharp and full of resentment. It's you. It's all your fault. You brought our family down. You star-crossed witch. My sister loved you so much. And you just watched her die. You'll pay for this. Was it Lilith Sant? Or her mother? It didn't matter anymore. I didn't waste time talking to her further and ended the call. Putting down my phone, I walked to the window and looked out at the young faces of the students walking to the campus. Their faces were full of youth and hope. Hugh's death, Margaret's bleeding, didn't stir a single ripple in my heart. Some people, some things once missed, are lost forever. Blood ties can no longer be the chains that bind me. I took out my phone and booked a flight home. Not to attend a funeral that had nothing to do with me, but because I wanted to see someone. I wanted to tell him that I was ready. I was ready to embrace my new life. The moment I booked my ticket, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Dylan. It was the first time he had contacted me in 2 years. The message was short. Alara, I'm getting married. To a very ordinary girl. Thank you for helping me see who I really am. I wish you. And I. Peace. I looked at the message and smiled. Then, let out a low sigh. I took the sapphire bracelet that had been sitting in my jeweler box for 2 years and put it on my wrist. It fit perfectly. When the plane touched down, I felt as if I had returned from another life. 2 years had passed, and this city seemed unchanged. Yet it felt strange in every corner. I didn't contact Theodore but took a taxi directly to the hospital where he worked. I wanted to surprise him. It was during lunch break, so the hospital wasn't crowded. I found his office by memory. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear him talking to a young nurse inside. Theodore, let's grab lunch after work. I know a new Japanese restaurant nearby. The food is amazing. The nurse's voice was youthful and lively. No, I have plans tonight, Theodore replied. His tone as gentle as ever. Plans again? Theodore, your love life seems to be flourishing lately. It's not that. Theodore laughed softly, his voice carrying an affection I hadn't noticed before. It's my star. It's coming back. My heart skipped a beat. I pushed open the door and walked in. Theodore, your star has returned. Both of them turned to look at me. The nurse's face showed surprise and curiosity. As for Theodore, when he saw me, his whole body froze. The medical file he was holding fell to the ground with a thud, but he didn't even notice. He just stared at me, his eyes full of shock, joy, hadn't fulfilled my obsession, disbelief, and finally, all those emotions turned into a bottomless tenderness. You. He opened his mouth, as if wanting to say something, but couldn't utter a word. It was the nurse who reacted first. She glanced between me and Theodore, then realized something, and with a knowing, she quickly made her exit. I'm just here to pick up a few things. I'll leave right away. The office was empty except for the two of us. I walked up to him, unable to suppress a smile as I saw his confused expression. What's wrong? Don't recognize me? It was as if he woke up from a dream. He immediately pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. His embrace was strong, tinged with a slight tremor, as if he were trying to merge me with his very being. How did you suddenly come back? You didn't even give me a heads up. His voice came muffled from above my head. I wanted to surprise you. I nestled in his embrace, feeling his strong heartbeat, and for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. How's that? Surprised enough? Happy enough? Enough. He released me and gently cupped my face, examining me closely. You've lost weight. No. I've actually gained 3 pounds. And your dark circles have gotten worse. That's the jet lag. We both babbled pointless words like to silly people, but neither of us could look away from the other. After a long silence, he softly asked, Are you leaving again? I shook my head. I'm not leaving. I looked into his eyes and said seriously, "Theodore, I came back for you." His breath hitched. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his lips. His lips were soft, with a hint of the sterile scent of disinfectant, just like him, clean and reassuring. At first, he was a little stiff. But soon, he took the lead, deepening the kiss. It was a kiss long overdue, filled with too much longing and waiting. When it ended, we were both a little breathless. His forehead rested against mine, and the smile in his eyes almost overflowed. "Alara, I've waited for this day for so long." "I know." I raised my hand and gently touched his face. "Sorry for making you wait so long." "It wasn't long." He took my hand and kissed it softly. "As long as the end is with you, it's worth waiting as long as it takes." We smiled at each other. The sunlight outside streamed through the glass window, warm and bright. I knew that, from this moment on, my life had truly begun. All those dark, painful, and unbearable pasts had become the prelude to my rebirth. And the person standing before me was the most dazzling star heaven had given me after all my trials. End.